Earlier in our marriage, when we first got married, PJ and I, in our early years when we were by ourselves, there was no ministry like we know it now. There was no extra people in the house. It was just myself and my husband. We were newlyweds, enjoying ourselves. One of the things that stood out to me in that period of time was something that happened that we didn't somehow check during our courtship, and that was cleaning toilets. I could do it, but I didn't like to do it, and so I told PJ that I don't like to clean the toilet, and he took it upon himself because he absolutely loves to clean the toilet. He enjoys it and he's happy every time he's done doing it. So that was something that it was a great thing because it was something I didn't like that he loved to do. I'm reminded of a book I read by Gary Chapman, and the title of that book is Things I Wish I Knew Before I Got Married. And in that book, there was a whole chapter that he had titled, I Thought Toilets Were Self-Cleaning. And he said something very profound. He talked about how he had grown up seeing his mom clean the toilets, and when he got married, he expected his wife to clean the toilet, but she was not cleaning it, and when he brought it up, she said, oh, I was waiting for you to clean it up. One of the most profound statements in that chapter, and I'm going to read directly, it says, confusion over gender roles is one of the most stressful aspects of contemporary marriages. And you see, the reason is because now women have a life, they have a career, they're also going to work, we're all going out of the house, we're all coming back late, so who's actually doing what? Can you already guess what we're talking about on today's episode? Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Lade Owolabi. On today's episode of Faith Friday, we're continuing on the series Wife in Waiting. And if you haven't been following, the series is based off of the book of Proverbs chapter 18 verse 22, where it says that he who finds a wife finds a good thing. So you're supposed to be a good thing before you're found. From the story I told earlier, can you guess that we're talking about marital roles, gender roles in marriage? We're talking about that, and today we're going to start off, but we're going to conclude next week. So really, I like to define the terms, and the main term here really is marital roles. What are marital roles? Let me read what I found. So marital roles are behavioral expectations of husbands and wives in a particular society at a given time. So the expectations in my society or my culture might be different from that in maybe a different country or a different continent. So per time, and per society, and these kinds of things are very important to note, especially when you're not getting married to someone from whom you come from the same society or the same culture. Why is this important? Why do we need to pay attention to marital roles or gender roles in marriage? I just have 2 points. The first one is that you grow up with a particular model, and that model shapes you. The model you grow up with, no matter how dysfunctional it is, that is your own normal. So for instance, the example I told earlier, Gary Chapman must have thought that it's perfectly normal for his mom to clean the toilets. And then his wife thought that it's perfectly normal for her dad to clean the toilets. So you see the disparity and the confusion there. Those kinds of things are prevalent. Like, you can't avoid those kinds of issues. But what you can do is to prepare yourself ahead and know whether or not you're already in a relationship, you're already courting or dating, you have a dating relationship. Whether or not you're in one, you must know, you must be able to identify in my own life, in my own family, no matter how dysfunctional it is, whether you were raised by a single mom or a single dad, or whether you were raised in a foster home, or whatever the case is. So the bottom line is that you both, yourself and your future husband, would have different behavioral expectations. One of the ones that was really, different for me, I believe, when I was, in a courting relationship with PJ, was that in PJ's family, growing up, his mom did all the laundry with her hands. There's not even a washing machine. And in my family, neither of my parents did laundry, except when they felt like just doing exercise. There were always people to do laundry. So that was something totally strange or different. However, some of the things we experience shape or determine what we become. Because PJ had seen his mom doing laundry, growing up, he had decided that my wife is not going to do this growing up. You see, you can either decide you're going to go in the line that you have experienced, your own normal that you were brought up with, or you can decide that, oh, because I saw this, because my mom had to deal with this, my wife is not going to have to deal with this. Another reason why it's extremely important that you take note of gender roles in marriage is it helps you to gauge and judge your level of maturity. If you're able to say, I can't let go of something that I've been used to, maybe the fact that, the woman is the one that cooks, or the fact that the man is the one that changes the light bulbs, the man is the one that takes the car out to fix the car. If you're able to compromise, if you're able to negotiate and be reasonable, that's a sure sign of maturity on your part and on the part of your partner. So you must take note of that. That's extremely important. We say that it's not about age. It's really not. Maturity is not about age, or marriage is not about age. A 25-year-old can be acting like a 17-year-old. I've seen it firsthand. I'm not ready for marriage. A 21-year-old can be acting like a 28-year-old and is ready for marriage. So these are some of the signs that will show you, are you mature or not? Or do you say, in my house, my mom is the one that does this and that's how it must be, or my dad is the one that does this and that's how it must be. So how do you go about it? How do you go about discovering and working on these expectations so that you can check and see whether you are mature enough to make a compromise or to negotiate and come up with a solution? I'm going to share 3 quick points. You need to make a list of marital roles that you grew up with. So who did what? At different stages in your life, as much as you remember, who did what, who was expected to do what. So the next thing to do after you've made the list, you need to examine your list versus his list. Of course, you have him do his own list, and then see where things are different or where they're the same. So if he grew up in a family where daddy does school runs, he takes the children to school, and you grew up where mommy does school runs, you see, it's different. You're going to have to come to a compromise. You're going to have to negotiate, and that's where understanding comes in, and that's where maturity comes in. So these things are very important leading up to marriage. Another way that you can go about it, after you've drawn up the list, you examine it, see the differences, and then last but definitely not the least, you openly and honestly share your expectations, right? And then you come up with a plan. So you negotiate. Sometimes you're going to have to settle, even if you're not comfortable. That's where maturity and understanding comes in. Marriage is not for children. Is hard work, and it requires you to put in a lot of work. And sometimes that hard work might be doing the dishes. Yeah. In the first few years of marriage, usually people would find it very difficult to balance some of these things, because even like finances are not, there yet. They can't afford to get, domestic staff. They can't afford to get help. So you have to do it. And sometimes that hard work in marriage might be doing the laundry. It might be washing the car. It might be whatever the case is. You must be ready to come to a compromise. You must be ready to negotiate. And what are the benefits when you do all of these things, when you work on your expectations? Benefits, right? You're using your time wisely. I keep saying it, that I wonder what people talk about in their dating, courtship, relationship period. I don't know what people talk about, but these are the types of things you're supposed to be talking about. Mind you, you're not going to be able to exhaust everything, but there's so much that needs to be done before you say I do. So I love you is not enough reason to run to the altar. It's not reason to run to the city hall or the registry and just say, let's sign it, let's seal it, let's make it a deal, right? It's not that simple. And all of these things are very important. And that's why where you do your marriage counseling is extremely important. These are the things that you are supposed to do during marriage counseling. It seems boring, but it will save you a lifetime of struggle and emotional stress and just headache, right? Another benefit is that it helps you to maximize your courtship. Like I said earlier, you're not wasting your time, you're maximizing your courtship. And last but not the least benefit is that it helps you to avoid disappointments and clashes in your early marriage. You're not cranky at each other. There's no reason to just snap at each other. You're not feeling like, oh, I'm doing more than you are doing, or I'm doing what you're supposed to be doing, or you're not letting me do what I'm supposed to do. You are taking my place. There's just less of a clash because now there is an understanding. Both of you have sat down. Both of you have decided you have made a choice. Understanding is a choice. You have made a choice to understand. You have made a choice to comprehend everybody's scenario. Like, you can see her point of view, she can see your point of view, and you guys have come to an understanding. You're able to negotiate, right? That's all I have. But before I round up, I would like to remind you, my call to action for you today is to go and make that list. Go and make that list. The list is about gender roles that you grew up with. Who did what? So just list the chores first. List different chores. Vacuuming or sweeping, mopping, dusting the furniture, whatever chores you remember, cooking, warming up food, doing laundry, washing the sheets, whatever household thing you remember. It doesn't necessarily have to be household, like who went for PTA meetings, these things are very important. Whether you, of course, you're single at the time and you don't have children, but you were a child at some point, so your upbringing, how did it go? So make that list. Please make that list. See, it's nice to watch videos like this, but if you don't do the action points, if you don't actually put it to work, then it will just be like information. It will just be like you listen to the news. But I don't want it to be like that for you. So please go ahead, whether there's a partner or not, go ahead and make that list. How did you grow up? What were the things that needed to be done? And then in front of it, you put who did it? Mom, dad. Sometimes they're not the ones that actually did it. Sometimes they were just responsible for making sure that it was taken care of. So for instance, food, in case you grew up in a well-to-do family and there was, they had chef. They had a chef at home. You can still put food/cooking, mom plus chef. You know what I mean? Because mom is the one that will make the food timetable. Or if dad was the one in charge of saying, okay, this is what we're going to eat on this day, and this is what the chef needs to do on this day, then still make it known, okay? So who was responsible for doing what? Who was responsible for paying the bills? Who was responsible for paying the school fees? Not necessarily who brought the money, but who actually went to the bank to pay these things. And you should be able to remember. If you can't remember, ask your parents if you still have them, or ask your older siblings. When you do this, when demand comes, you have enough things to occupy your time with, rather than talking about, what are you going to eat? Did you sleep well? And just keep talking about things that don't matter. The sky is blue, the grass is green. Anyways, I'm sure you get the point. I want to thank you so much for watching. And next week, we're going to be continuing this same, marital roles. We're going to continue the gender roles. I'm going to tell you about a few other things that you must take note of when it comes to behavioral expectations. Why do people do what they do? Very, very important. And you must understand why you do what you do and some of the things that influence why you do what you do, so that when you prepare for marriage, you're better equipped to handle the school of marriage. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, don't forget to be the best version of you. Bye.